morning. It is 10:01. Are we ready to begin? Yes. All right. Well, great morning and welcome to our annual plan public hearing for the Cayce Housing Authority. Today is Wednesday, April 1st, 2026, and we are ready to begin our public hearing. Um, I am not sure who is controlling the slides, but if it is time to go to the next one. All right, and this morning we will have myself, Jessica Anderson Preston, the Chief Executive Officer for the Columbia and Cayce Housing Authority, as well as Ms. Talisha Stewart, who is the Senior Vice President of Resident and Strategic Initiatives, and Ms. Robin Hudson, who is our Development Compliance Manager. We will be presenting to you today. If you have any questions as we go along, please feel free to type them in the chat box. If you are unable to type them in the chat box, please hold them until the end, and we will have an opportunity to answer questions at the end of the presentation. And at this time, I will turn it over to Ms. Talisha Stewart to conduct the next portion of our public hearing for our annual plan for fiscal year 2026-2027. Take it away, Ms. Stewart.
Thank you, Ms. Preston, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our Cayce Housing 2026-2027 Annual Plan Public Hearing. I'm glad you guys were able to join us today, and we're just going to start just talking a little bit about Cayce Housing, our mission, but also we're going to talk about some goals that we have for Cayce Housing and things we've done over the past fiscal year to accomplish those goals, as well as other proposed changes that you could be expecting in 2026-27. I will begin with focusing on the mission and the vision for Cayce Housing. Our mission statement is because Cayce Housing cares, we are leveraging the power of housing to build a foundation for all individuals and families to thrive. The vision for Cayce Housing is we'll have communities of opportunity where individuals and families can live, work, and thrive to their fullest potential. So currently we are in the public hearing phase of our annual plan activities. And each year HUD requires that we take certain steps to ensure that we engage our residents, but also our community stakeholders in the plan activities we have for the upcoming fiscal year. We began our activities on February the 10th, where we started our public comment period. And that is a 45-day public comment period that lasted until March the 27th. On March the 10th, we actually had a resident advisory board meeting where we unveiled our plans to the Cayce Housing residents, and they were able to provide any input or just updates on things that they think we should propose in our plan. Today, again, we have our public hearing, followed by we will be submitting the plan to HUD on or before April the 17th, which will be before our fiscal year, which begins on July the 1st. So in 2025, we established some goals that we will accomplish for Cayce Housing over the next 5 years. This is actually the first year of reporting out our performance for that 5-year plan we have for Cayce Housing. So the goals that we established were, one was to convert 41 public housing units to project-based vouchers and exit the public housing program. We would also increase availability of quality affordable housing by improving the quality of assisted housing. Thirdly, we will ensure that the residents have access to services that promote self-sufficiency, quality of life, financial literacy, and economic development. And finally, we will ensure equal opportunity in providing fair housing for all. So for each of the goals, there were certain objectives that was established that we will use to measure our performance in accomplishing that goal. So for our first goal was to increase availability of quality affordable housing by improving the quality of assisted housing. Our objectives were we would continue public housing high performance status with the public housing assessment strategy of 90% or greater, and we will maintain our housing vacancies at a rate of 2% or less. So needless to say, we are not a high performer for Cayce Housing, but however, we are a standard performer. And our vacancies currently at Cayce Housing are zero, so we have a 100% occupancy rate. Our second goal is that I'm sorry, again, this is our progress. I was a little bit ahead of myself. Our second goal is that we will ensure that residents have access to services that promote economic self-sufficiency, quality of life, financial literacy, and economic development. So some of the things that we have done over the past fiscal year, or this current fiscal year, is we provided opportunities for residents to participate in many economic development activities that are centered on soft skills, employment, education, and job training. We hosted financial literacy workshops, particularly in Cayce for our residents, but also in Columbia as well, on creating living wills, trusts, and improving their financial well-being. We engaged Cayce residents in the Summer Youth Employment Program, also our Growing Up Gen Z program, and many of our other youth-focused initiatives that were offered for our housing residents. We connect our Cayce seniors to wellness, nutritional, and social and financial wellness programs. We address food insecurities through monthly produce and non-perishable distributions. We connected residents to resources through the Families Helping Families and the Rehoboth Church sponsorships during the holidays. And also, we hosted community baby shower in partnership with Absolute Total Care for new and expectant parents. So we listened to Cayce residents regarding some of the programs and services they want to see in their community. And we actually did a good job of making sure to provide more resources and services to our families. Our third goal is that we will ensure equal opportunity and provide fair housing for all. And the objectives for this goal is we'll continue affirmative measures that will facilitate access to suitable living environment regardless of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, and disability. And the second objective will be we will continue affirmative measures that will prove acceptable for persons with disabilities regardless of the unit size required. So in accomplishing this goal, we review our policies and standard operation procedures annually to ensure that practices are not in place that violate fair housing regulations. Residents are provided information on their rights under fair housing during their initial lease up. And also our standard operating procedures for government hearings are in place to ensure that residents are prepared and have a fair hearing process. Our fourth and final goal for Cayce is that we will convert 41 public housing units to project-based vouchers. So we started this process several years ago, and we'll continue to work through this process. And to date, the final conversion for Cayce Housing is still pending. This continues to be our primary focus, and we will fully convert all units upon completion of renovations. Upon finalization of the renovations for all Cayce units, we will convert the units out of the public housing program to a project-based subsidy program, so the units will continue to remain affordable for our residents. So in 2026-27, we're going to talk about what should our residents expect for Camp Cayce Housing. And most of the things that we're going to expect, possible changes are more regulatory changes, things that HUD is kind of requiring housing authorities to do, but also some things that we're looking to do as well. So we're looking to adopt standards from what they call HOTMA, or the Housing Opportunities Through Modernization Act. There's certain standards that allow us to help to streamline our recertification and intake processes for our residents, and I'll go in details about that momentarily. We will definitely probably have changes to our payment standards and our flat rents for Cayce housing. Again, we don't control those changes. They are provided to us as our fair market rents are published by HUD. And each year, around about August, September, every year we receive those fair market rents. So we make those changes accordingly, and usually they're effective October the 1st of each year. We're proposing changes to our maintenance charges schedule due to inflated costs of materials and supplies. There are possible policy changes to include general changes for our admissions and continued occupancy plan, and I'll talk to you guys about those changes momentarily. We will work on increasing employment opportunities for residents through various initiatives and partnerships that we're building. Our missions policy changes regarding the citizenship as may change according to HUD's final rule, or definitely will change according to HUD's final rule on citizenship. And there's a possible implementation of work requirements and or term requirements for non-elderly and disabled households if HUD makes a proposed rule final. So for some of our proposed changes for our public housing program, one is a requirement to inform property management of the birth, adoption, or court-awarded custody within 30 days of occurrence. Again, this is not a policy change yet, but these are things we're looking to put into place. Updates to the request for approval to add additional household members as a result of legal actions and marriages and legal custody. So there may be some changes as far as how we go about doing those procedures. We may include mandate changes to subsidies for mixed status families, and those are families in which you may have one member who may be a citizen, another member who may not be a citizen. Again, these are some possible regulatory changes that we may be required to make. We may be updating our policy regarding status of absent family members, and particularly maybe persons who are no longer in the home because of school, military's status, or whatever that may be. Also update our policy regarding retroactive rent and a requirement to report income changes within 10 business days. It's one of the policy changes we're seeking to adopt. And also policy changes to include tenant obligations to report a disruption in utility services within 48 hours. So earlier I referenced HOTMA, which is the Housing Opportunities Through Modernization Act, and some changes that may be forthcoming in our public housing operations once these policy changes are adopted. First is adoption of Inspire inspection standards for all programs. Again, Cayce housing is public housing, so therefore we're already doing Inspire standards for our public housing units. Once Cayce converts to project-based vouchers, we will be using Inspire inspections during that conversion phase. We will allow self-certification of net assets estimated at or below $50,000. Total assets cannot exceed $100,000 and the applicants or the tenant cannot own real estate that's suitable for occupancy. Again, these are some proposed changes that we're looking to put into place. Interim income reviews will be performed only if the annual adjusted income increases or decreases more than 10%. So again, we're looking at ways to allow us not to have required tenants to come in so often for their reexaminations. And again, this is one of the things that HOTMA does, is streamline those recertification process and make it easier on staff as well as our tenants as well. We're looking at streamlined recertifications every 3 years for households with 90% fixed income. So you have some of your elderly, disabled folks who may be receiving Social Security benefits. And again, because those benefits do not increase significantly from year to year, then it's possible changes they may have to come in for research every 3 years versus every year. And we're looking at adding income and asset inclusions, including amounts received from Medicaid and or state and local programs meant to keep family members with disabilities living at home, veteran aid and attendant care, and distribution of principal from non-revocable trusts, including special needs. Some other hotman changes that we're looking at making is verification consent form should only be signed once from each adult member, so it's not a form that you would have to sign every year. Our enterprise income verification system, EIV, is not required in interims. A housing authority may use other federal programs for income verification. We're looking at increasing our standard deductions from $400 to $525 for families with a head, co-head, or spouse who is designated as being elderly or disabled. And finally, our hardship exemptions will be added, and one that may include allowances for unreimbursed health care and medical care and disability expenses increase to 10% over 2 years, and also deduction for unreimbursed child care expenses that causes economic hardships for 90 days with distinctions as needed. Again, these changes will make it easier on residents, but also on staff as well, as we're managing the tenant rental payments costs. This can kind of concludes our proposed changes and just an update on what we have accomplished for our Cayce housing over this current fiscal year, and also looking at what we're planning to do for the next fiscal year. At this moment, I would like to open up for any questions that anyone who's part of this public hearing may have. Any questions or comments? Okay. So it looks like there are none. Mrs. Preston, I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, thank you everybody for your participation in today's public hearing for the Cayce Housing Annual Plan for fiscal year 26 and 27. We look forward to a wonderful fiscal year operating efficiently and effectively. Have a wonderful day. This concludes our public hearing.